Hi guys, sorry this video is so late. You guys are probably asleep already, but don't worry about it. If you don't understand it, here it is. You can always watch it later or tomorrow. Okay? Let's start with what we're doing today. We're adding and subtracting fractions using area models, and we have two fractions here, and I went ahead and drew my two boxes in. We know that we are going to use one box for each fraction to represent each fraction. Okay, so we're going to start with 4/7 with this one. And first thing I want to do is use the denominator, just like on my number lines. I'm going to use my denominator to divide my box. So I need 7 7 spaces. Okay, divide my box into 7 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 right there. Okay, and now my numerator is telling me 4/7, so I need to shade in 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now for my other fraction, which is the 1/4. Okay. This time I'm dividing my number line into fourths, and instead of doing vertical lines, I'm going to do horizontal lines. Okay, so I'm going to do this. And so there I have fourths, and my numerator is saying shade one of them in. Okay, and so all I've done right now is represent each fraction. Here we see 4/7, here I see 1/4. Okay, now on a mission to find my common denominator. So I'm going to use the other denominator, the 4, to divide my first box even more. And so just like I did over here, my fourths lines we're going horizontally. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to do my lines going horizontally, and I'm going to do fourths going that way. Okay, and now same thing over here for the box with the fourths. I'm going to now divide them into 7ths, but going vertically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, now as you can tell, I no longer have just 7ths here. Earlier I had a total of 7, but now I don't. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. So another 7 would be 14. Another 7 would be 21. Okay, and then another 7 would be 28. Okay, so now I have a total of 28. Okay, now the numerator is what's shaded. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 out of 28 are shaded in. Okay, now for the fourths. I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another 7 would be 14. Another 7 would be 21. And another 7 would be 28. So I now have a total of 28. Okay, now for the numerator, that's the shaded part only. So I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and now I have, as you can tell, a common denominator. Okay, by finding the equivalent fractions. Okay, so 4/7 is equal to 16/28, and I am subtracting the equivalent fraction of 1/4, and that's 7/28. Okay, and now I just have to find my numerator by subtracting 7 from 16. Okay, and so that gives me 9, and my common denominator stays the same. I don't want to change it. Okay, and so that gives me 9/28, and that is my answer. And of course we know that there is an extra step, which is simplifying, but I know by looking at that my greatest common factor for those two is going to be a 1, and if I divide that by a 1, it's just going to give me the same answer, right? Alright, so let's do another example. And the next example is going to be this one. We're adding now. Okay, so on my first box I'm showing that 2/8. Okay, and so I am dividing my first box into eighths. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and my numerator tells me to shade 2 parts in. Okay, and now for the 2/3. On this side I'm representing 2/3, and this time I'm going to divide my box into thirds, but I'm also using lines going the opposite direction. I don't want them vertical, I want them to go horizontal. Okay, so maybe about there and there. Okay, and my numerator says 2, so I'm shading 2 sections. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. Okay, so I have done my representations. This shows 2/8, this shows 2/3, but now again on my mission to find the common denominator. So how do I do that? By using the other denominator and putting it over here. So this says thirds. I'm gonna do thirds on this box. Okay, pretty much the same thing. My lines are going the opposite direction. Okay, so do the same thing over here. Well, before I go over there, let's go ahead and count this. My denominator. Okay, I'm gonna find how many total boxes I have, or how many total sections I have. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another 8 would be 16, and another 8 would be 24. Okay. Alright, and the numerator comes from the shaded part. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And now I go and do the same thing for the 2/3. I use the other denominator, which is an 8, and I divide this box into eighths, but this time going vertically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so again, get my denominator out of the total yellow and white parts. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another 8 is 16, and another 8 is 24. Okay, and the numerator comes from just the yellow part. Okay, so I know I have 8 here, and another 8 would be 16. Okay, so now as you can tell, I have my common denominator, the 24. Now I'm ready to start adding. Okay, so 2/8 is equal to 6/24, and 2/3 is equivalent to 16/24. Okay, add that up. I have 6 plus 16, that's going to give me 22, and my denominator is 24. I don't want to change that. I worked hard to find that common denominator. Okay, and just like I've told you guys, last step after you have your answer is to try to simplify that if possible. Okay, so I'm going to make my t-chart for the 22 and t-chart for the 24. Okay, so factors for 22: 1 times 22 and 2 times 11, and that's it. okay, for factors for 24. Okay, factors, sorry about that. Factors for 24 is 1 times 24 and 2 times 12, okay, 3 times 8, and 2 more, 4 times 6, okay? So we can see that the factors for 22 are 1, 2, 11, and 22. For 24, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 14. So I know that the highest factor, or the greater factor, is 22 on this list, but it's not on this list, so I'm not using that one. 11 is not on this list either, but the 2 is on both lists. That's the greatest common factor. That's the factor that I'm going to use to simplify the 22 24ths. So I am going to divide by that 2. And 22 divided by 2 is 11. And 24 divided by 2 is 12. And there we have it. We have our answer. Okay, I hope this helps. And like I said, I'm so sorry it's so late. But hopefully whenever you can watch this, it'll help you understand it a little better. If not, just let me know. Thank you guys. Bye.